And welcome to Hero Power. I am your host, Avanties, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, Zuroshio.
What is up, gang? We are on the precipice of really not precipice. We're in the countdown time for the new set. Um, I'm really. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at your use of the word precipice.
I
Nobody
love.
overuses the word precipice as much as you.
That's right. I do. I overuse that word. It's a good word. But no, we're right on the countdown. We're in that. So this is my both least favorite and most favorite time of Hearthstone because we're kind of on the tail end of current meta, and it's really stale to play Hearthstone. I'm really having to convince myself to grind to try to get Legend before the next set comes out. However, we have new cards coming out and theory crafting for these new cards, and so I don't enjoy playing standard right now, but I am really excited for what standard is going to become in less than a month now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's going to be a lot of fun. As for my week in Hearthstone, I am just kind of doing the Fire Festival quest. I just finished the last of the Fire Festival, so I have my Malfurion portrait. That was a bit of a grind. I was playing some Druid to finish that up, and yeah, I had a really nasty. If you're in our Discord, you've seen the screenshot of of our of a full board of Gibberlings, all on turn one, and I
I
attacked
hope
face
you.
for 9 damage.
I hope you took a
Yeah,
shower after that game because that was just dirty.
my opponent, another Druid, conceded on turn two. It was pretty, yeah, it was pretty bad. If you're not in our Discord, you can be part of our Discord by going to patreon.com/hero power, and for as little as $1 a month, you can join our community and come in there. Now's the best time to do it because we're going to be showing images of the new cards released as they start coming out. But we'll be talking more about that in a news section. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. I also spent most of the week focusing on the Fire Festival quests. I completed it yesterday. Got my Malfurion. Yeah, it was. I just kind of glanced at the quests, so I wasn't really paying attention. I knew it was, play some fire spells, and then it was like, win some games with, win 3 games with Paladin, and win 3 games with Druid, and let me tell you, I was in for a bit of a surprise when I won my 3rd game with Shaman and had to continue winning with Shaman because it's win
Yeah,
10 games with Shaman, not 3. Oops.
which I did not mind so much because I went ahead and purchased the bundle that gave me the Ragnaros
Yeah.
hero power for Shaman. So I loved emoting my opponents. I probably looked like a BMer, but I just wanted. I just didn't. I really enjoy these new portraits. They're making sure they had a little stint with when COVID hit that they gave us new portraits, but none of the new voice lines, and that kind of there's a kind of an outrage about it. And I think they learned that lesson because all of these new portraits are coming up with really good audio, really good voice lines.
Yeah.
They're definitely making sure that that situation doesn't happen again.
No, yeah.
Again, I'm going to give them a pass on that because I think it was pandemic related why they didn't get those
Mm-hmm.
voiceovers done because a lot going on with that back last year. So I'm glad they're not. They've learned from that lesson because
No, yeah,
these voice lines are beautiful.
I wanna shout out to one of our patrons, Gromok. He asked
Yeah,
me earlier this week. He's like, "So did you buy that Debbie Gibson bundle yet?" And I was like, "It took me a minute." I was like, "Debbie Gibson, oh, Eternal Flame, got it. Well played, sir. That was well played." And so yeah, no, I haven't actually picked that up yet. I'm planning on getting it this week. But yeah, no, shout out to Gromok for that great play on words. I enjoyed that.
I I'll be honest. I bought it just for the Uther
Mm-hmm.
skin. That is probably my favorite Uther skin. That red, that kind of Uther the Flame, and I like it a lot. I like it when they do portraits are like alternate storylines that are away from the normal Hearthstone storylines and also away from the World of Warcraft. I like it when they do like Ragnaros the Light Lord instead of Fire Lord and things like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And the portraits are definitely sparing no expense. The new Mage one, Katrana Prestor, which if you know WoW lore, that is the human form of Onyxia. That's my new favorite mage skin. It's nice to have a mage skin that isn't just another version of Jaina, because there's so many versions of Jaina right now, and I love Jaina. Don't get me wrong, but it's nice to have another option as a female character in mage, other than having to go with one of the dude bros in mage. Khadgar, Medivh, one of them. So. Yeah. But let's get into the news. And before we start talking about the new set coming out and patches related to it, we did get an announcement about Grandmasters 2021 Season 2.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, the start of the season is I think it's slightly delayed because usually it starts a little bit into July. They're making sure it starts on August the 12th, which, if you remember from our discussion last week, it's going to be after United and Stormwind comes out. So the entire set, United Stormwind, is going to be live for Grandmaster season.
The players will have a week and like 2 days to play test decks before the first week of Grandmaster starts.
Yeah, because I think last time the Grandmaster started almost a couple days after.
Yeah.
And so none of the Grandmasters, they had to submit the decks like literally right before the set came out. So the first week wasn't in the new set, and it was just boring to watch. Mm-hmm. Well, the set's going to come out on the 3rd. They're going to have pretty much almost a full week to test it before they have to submit their decks for the first week, which is starts on August the 12th. But then I think the top 8 gets broadcast on the 13th. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to be broadcasting any of the play on the 12th. On the 13th, when they cut the top 8 for each region, that's when the broadcast will start. Also, a big change is they're going to be rotating the first 7 weeks before playoffs between Conquest and Last Hero Standing. No specialist.
Hallelujah. I'm excited for this. I find specialist incredibly boring. It's not fun to watch. So I am really excited about seeing some Conquest and Last Hero Standing. Those are 2 really good formats.
So I am a fan of specialist. I like it a lot. Now, watching it isn't nearly as fun, but playing in it, I enjoy it a lot. I'm wondering if the reason they're removing Specialist is because of the new set, possibly. Because so far with the cards we've seen, and we'll talk about that in the second half of the show, a lot of these cards are favoring a slower control/combo style play. And that kind of meta is really bad with Specialist.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because that's where you get your 40-minute games. So I'm wondering if the reason for removing Specialist isn't because this new set is going to be slowing down the meta a little bit, and Specialist is bad in a slow meta. And if that's the case, I'm glad they're making that change, and I'm glad the meta is going to be a little slower. Now, obviously, anytime we say there's going to be a slow meta, somebody figures out some aggro decks that punish it, and all of a sudden we're back into a quick meta again.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see how that goes. Now, with this new season, we do have some new Grandmasters. We had quite a few get relegated. And in the Americas, we have Kalis Luna, which we've seen him play in past Masters Tour, and he's in THL, plays in Legacy with me. So he's kind of a THL alumni. Dmitry Kazov, I've never heard of. Ego Waffle, big-time content creator, does some wild, too. And McBanterface, who is also in the THL Pro Series and a very top performer in the Team Hearth Legends. So What do you think of these Americas players going into? All these are new. None of these are re-promotions. What do you think of these new players coming into Grandmasters?
I'm excited. I always like to watch new people come in. Kayla, Luna, we've heard of. Like you said, Dimitri, we're not very familiar with. Ego Waffle has been around for a while. Mick needs a better name is going to be the only kind of wild card. We'll have to see how he does, and
So
I'm excited.
here's my prediction. Obviously, every season I'm rooting for Luna to make it to World Championships.
Yep.
That is mainly because she is a big friend of the show. I think McBanterface makes it to the finals of season 2 with a chance to go to the World Championship. I think McBanterface is an amazing player and is going to be the dark horse of the sleeper and come out because McBanterface has great deck building. Not quite as unique to the point of Ego Waffles. Ego Waffles comes out with more creative ways to use the cards. However, McBanterface has a higher skill level, in my opinion, to make those decks work. So I'm really excited to see both, especially Ego Waffles and McBanterface, but obviously Kayla Luna because THL representation in Grandmasters is amazing. We have now 3 with McBanterface, Kayla Luna, and Rami. Rami's also a THL player, so that's really awesome. I'm excited.
Okay. Moving on to the EU Grandmasters. Obviously, we are seeing Bunny Hopper get re-promoted after he was relegated. Along with some other new faces, we're seeing Floki, Gabby, and J4U all being promoted to European Grandmasters.
So Bunny Hopper's not a surprise because he's very much a Masters Tour grinder. He was one of the few Grandmasters that actually played in the Masters Tour to keep his earnings up. So he was in prime position to get relegated and then re-promoted. I don't have a lot of experience with Floki, but I have seen Gabby and J4U quite a bit in the EU kind of Masters Tour series. So those are not unknown names. These are all very much worth it. EU is really tough.
EU is arguably one of the toughest metas to grind. So
yeah, and then finally, I noticed you skipped over Apac because you didn't want to screw this name.
I don't know what you're talking about, Zuroshio.
With Apac, we have Okasinsuke, Gur, Lambi Series, and Traheson. Now, Lambi Series is a Grandmaster that was fairly new that got relegated and being re-promoted. Okasinsuke, I've seen.
I'm proud of you for pronouncing that correctly. I had to teach you how to say it before the show.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okasinsuke, Gur, and Traheson, I've seen competing, so they're not really unknown names. I think out of all 12 of these players, the only real unknown that I've never even heard of was Dmitry Kazov. So I don't know if I just missed a Masters Tour they spiked or what, but that's the only name that caught me off guard. And who knows? It could be a renaming of somebody else of a previous name.
That's possible too. Yeah.
I'm excited. Grandmasters, especially since Grandmasters will be in United and Stormwind and will have such a fresh meta that first week. I'm definitely going to be watching.
Yeah. So we do have some possible balance changes incoming. This past Thursday, Alec Dawson tweeted a few balance changes coming next Thursday, so that would be July the 15th. 3 cards in total, looking at Generation Burst Healing in Priest and hitting on some of the non-games in Druid. So what are you thinking are maybe the targets here, Zuroshio? Any ideas?
So I think palm reading needs to be addressed. Maybe it goes to 4 mana. Also, I think the 1 mana heal that generates a spell, the 3 heal.
Heal for 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one possibly either goes to 2 mana because Wand Maker constantly gets that card. So maybe you just need to take it out of the 1 mana pool. Wand Makers really kind of ruin the 1 mana pool. I mean, they can't really put spells in 1 mana that are super powerful, or Wand Maker can get you 4 or 5 copies in a game. You got to be real careful. And then for Druid, I'm not really sure. Uh, the only thing I could think of, Druid's really not in a good spot right now. So maybe this is something that's preemptively being nerfed for United and Stormwind coming out. Maybe Gibberling needs to be addressed in some way. Maybe it goes to 2 cost. I don't know.
Maybe they take it and make it the Jabberling, so people quit arguing about how to pronounce it correctly.
Oh, whatever. It's Gibberling. and on that same note, it's Jiff. No, it's GIF. No. So Gibberling feels bad when it gets off out of the gate. Like I mentioned in the screenshot that I got, where I had a board full of Gibberlings on turn 1, attacked face for 9 damage on turn 2, and my opponent conceded right on turn 2.
Yeah.
It feels bad when it goes off. So I don't know if Gibberling needs to go to 2, or if it needs the pen flinger kind of treatment where you adjust its spell burst. Maybe it summons a Gibberling that doesn't have the spell burst on it. I don't know. I don't know what you do there. But I can't think of any other card in Druid that I really want to mess with, unless it's something that's going to be potentially broken when United and Stormwind comes out.
Okay. All right.
Now, we did get a follow-up retweet from Dialux. I don't know who this is, but they're evidently a developer, probably on the engineering side for Hearthstone.
Content manager at
Content
Blizzard.
manager. Okay. They did confirm in a retweet that the patch notes on this balance change will be coming out on Wednesday, July the 14th. So we're going to hear all the details on this on Wednesday, and then the patch will go live on Thursday.
Yeah, I was reading. I was just sitting here reading comments on that tweet. He said we're expecting to have patch notes for these changes on Wednesday, and somebody said Wednesday was yesterday, and the reply was, that is correct. Yesterday was the last Wednesday to ever exist. From now on, there will never be another Wednesday.
That's fun. That's fun. So okay. So some of these comments that are on this retweet does bring up an interesting question. We're going to be getting a patch notes for this patch a day before the patch.
Yes.
And we've been seeing this kind of trend where we hear rumors that a balance change is happening next week on like a Thursday or Friday. And then we get actual notes on it either that Monday before the patch hits Tuesday, or sometimes we've gotten them that Tuesday morning before the patch hits at 1 o'clock Eastern that day. So what do you feel? How do you feel about the patch notes being kind of given to us literally within 24 hours of the patch happening?
I think it's great. It kind of gives, those of us who like to talk about Hearthstone some time to theory craft and talk about what's coming and what to expect. And I mean, it's not going to affect us as those of us who podcast, unless you're doing your recordings on Wednesday night. So I mean, I like that we're getting them a day early. Gives us a chance to look over them, know what to expect, and then be ready for when they do drop on Thursday.
As a podcaster, I don't like it, because in the past, sometimes we've gotten the notes on the patch a week before the patch comes out so we can have time to talk about it. However, as a player, it always felt bad because I'm like, wow, now all I see on the ladder is everybody jamming in this card before it gets nerfed, or people don't want to play that card because they want to get used to playing it after the nerf, because obviously in a lot of cases it's not playable. So I do like the short-term notice as a player of just these are the balance changes that are happening and they're happening tomorrow or they're happening later this day. So I'm for it as a content creator, though. It does get a little frustrating that, we record an episode and then we hear Monday morning that balance changes are happening, and then the balance changes happen, and then by the time we get to our next episode, we have to talk about the announcement of the balance changes and then the balance changes that happen the next day. So it does get a little frustrating on the podcaster side, but as a player, I love it.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to it's card reveal season. As we talked about. So we want to preface this. We have about 14 or 15 cards to really talk about today. These were the initial cards.
16 cards.
Okay, 16 cards. These were from the initial reveal stream where they announced the set. The schedule for reveals is slated to begin on July the 20th. So that is a week from this coming Tuesday. If there are no new card reveals next week, we may take next week off and prepare to come in full bore the following week with the new card reveals.
Yeah, it really depends on the news. Obviously, we'll have some balance changes announced and going live next week. If they're big enough to warrant doing an episode on and maybe playing with those cards, we may have a show next week. But we do both personally have some scheduled stuff next week in our personal lives that might throw that a little bit off. So we'll just have to see how next week goes. Now, according to if you go to the Play Hearthstone site and go to the card list where you can see the new cards, it usually has little earmarked images at the top that show you the schedule. And it starts on July 20th. And right now they only have 20 pictures ending at 3 a.m. on the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the full schedule. And some of the images there don't have links to where you're going to see them, and they look like old images from Darkmoon Faire.
Yeah.
Not Darkmoon Faire, but this last set that just came out. Barons. Forged in the Barons. They look like placeholders for some of the Forged in the Barons cards. So unless the art's just similar, I don't know if that's completely updated yet. And if they only have 20 cards being revealed that way, that is a total of 36 cards. That means 99 cards are going to have to be dropped through other means or in the final reveal, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, because, so the 20th through the 23rd, that's Tuesday through Friday, and then we have an entire another week before the set drops.
Yeah.
So if the first card is revealed on the 20th, that is exactly 2 weeks to launch day. So I bet there'll be some more, and or they'll spread them out somehow. So
yeah, and since so if the 20th is indeed the first day that the official reveals start, that means that the big reveal stream will likely be on the 29th or 30th.
That sounds about right.
Or maybe the 28th, because what they usually like to do is allow you to have private firesides to open your packs the weekend before, which would start the 30th through the 1st.
Correct.
Which means the 29th would be the patch that puts all of those cards in the client.
Yes, that is
so
correct.
We would either get the final reveal stream the morning of the 29th or more likely the 28th, preemptively, before that patch. So if it starts the 20th and it goes to the 28th, that's a
week and a half. It's a week and a half.
No,
it's a week and a day.
It's a week and a day.
Yeah, a week and a day.
So I really hope the 20th isn't accurate. I hope that it starts on, say, the 13th. But I don't know. Oh, that's man, that's really jamming it. That's really, really jamming in the reveals. Um, and I know there was probably a slight delay with 4th of July last week, and they probably were out of the office or not working on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Another tight reveal season. I wish they would find a way to make these a little more systematic and predictable.
But if they did that, they'd have to like talk about stuff and communicate outside of the company, and we all know Blizzard doesn't communicate.
I mean, that is kind of the stereotype meme that we've done with that. But in recent times, we've had really good communication by devs with Alec and Cora and you know, Ixar tweeting and Celestalon tweeting. So I don't know. I think there could be a better way to do the reveal seasons. I am hearing a lot of your kind of reveal alumni are not have confirmed that they don't have card reveals,
Mm-hmm.
which tells me that when you have premier people that don't have a card reveal, I think Regis Kilbin said he doesn't have a card reveal and he's not being involved in the stream. I think that means they're releasing less in that channel, and maybe that 20th to the 22nd is accurate, and they're literally just going to dump all the cards at one time.
That's completely possible. Yeah.
So, because the 20th is a Tuesday, the 22nd, which was 3 a.m. according to that list, so that's early. That's right at the start of it. Maybe they have the big stream drop on the 22nd or 23rd, and we just know all the cards then. That's a lot of cards.
That would be that would be interesting.
I hope that's not the case.
I can tell you right now, if that is the case, we're gonna divide we'll divide all those cards up into 2 shows.
I think that's probably the best way to do it.
All right.
That's pretty much all of the news we have right now. If you're here for the play portion, we are not doing a play portion this week. So if you're here for the audio portion only, stick around. We're going to be getting right into these first card reviews.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first 16 we have.
Yeah. And so if you are watching on the video, you can follow along as we have our United in Stormwind slideshow that was put together by Zuroshio during all of his infinite free time he has from his 2 jobs. So thank you for knocking that out. But all right, let's get right into these cards. We're gonna
first go back to the first slide.
Okay.
What? So, and this ain't great for the audio versions, but right in the United Stormwind splash, this screen that's kind of the promotion screen for this set. There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on.
So we have Curial Rome right up front. We have Scab's Cutter Butter off to the side. Is that Bartender Bob on the left?
I think it is, yeah.
Or if it's not, he looks a lot like he's wearing that 70s shirt. There's a lot of Tavish is on the right. So we know the mercenaries are still being highly involved.
Yep.
And we're going to be seeing more of the Alliance side mercenaries, because we didn't get a lot of extra content for Scabs or Tavish.
Right.
That's because that the Barons featured the 5 Horde aligned mercenaries. Well, now that we have 10 classes, they can split them up. Now we're going to see the 5 Alliance aligned mercenaries, and I'm really excited to see this. And this kind of tells me going into the 3rd set this year that we're going to see a mingling of both. And that really excites me. I know they said they're not doing a full narrative this year, but we're getting a lot of story pieces that are intermingled between these sets, and I like that.
Yeah, I like it as well. All right, so let's jump into this. We are going to start as we usually do with the Hunter class, and so far we have seen 1 card. It is a rare spell called Ramming Mount. 3 mana, give a minion +2/+2 and immune while attacking. When it dies, summon a ram that is a 2/2.
Yeah. So this is like Spikered Steed, the one I couldn't remember the name of.
Yes.
I can't believe I couldn't remember that. So all of these mount cards, from what's been kind of teased, it seems like the mount cards are going to be in the Alliance favored mercenary classes. So this one is the one for Tavish. We see Tavish in the art. We'll also see another one for Priest later for Zyrella, who's also Alliance lined character. So this is just a good card. So it's 3 mana, gives a minion +2/+2 and immune while attacking. And then it's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna list as a death rattle, but when that minion dies, it's gonna summon the mount, which is a 2/2 beast, which also has immune while attacking as the text.
Yeah.
So this is just good tempo. It doesn't have to be in like a beast aligned hunter. You can actually put this minion on other on non-beasts.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see it put on beasts because you got a beast riding a beast. But anyways, I don't know. I really like this card. I think it's a solid card. I don't think it's like, archetype defining or anything, but it's one of those cards that can go in just about every hunter deck.
Yeah. All right, moving on, we have Mage. First up, we have a fire spell called Fire Sail, and it is 4 mana, tradable, deal 3 damage to all minions. So we talked about tradable last week. If you guys didn't listen to that show, a spell that it has tradable can be drugged back over to your library, and it will then be shuffled back into your library for 1 mana, and you get to draw another card. So basically you're just swapping it out for a chance to draw it again later if you don't want it now. And then the card's ability is deal 3 damage to all minions for 4 mana. What do you think of this card, Zuroshio?
I like it. One thing to note on the tradable cards is it has a unique UI. When you click on or drag with your finger, if you're on mobile, your library will turn green, and you basically hover it over your library and let go of it or click on it again, and it will use a mana crystal, and then it sets it to the side. I think the animation shows it going into your deck, but it actually sets it to the side and draws for the remaining cards and then puts it into your deck. So there isn't a chance for you to draw this same identical card. Now, if you have a second copy of Fire Sail, it could draw that copy, but it won't draw this card. And you can't use tradable on an empty deck.
Library, yeah.
Yeah, if your deck is empty and you would be drawing into fatigue, you can't use a tradable. I like this a lot. It's very Hellfire-y. Hellfire is 4 mana, 3 damage to everything, including faces. So Hellfire was a very good card. And with the spell damage that can be generated in Mage, this 3 damage could be huge.
That's right. That's exactly
right.
And
with the Prime, it has spell damage +1, and a lot of times you want to put it into play and then destroy it so it shuffles the Prime into your deck. So you get the extra damage, so now it's doing 4 damage, and then you also kill off that Prime, so its Death Rattle summons it into your deck. So it's a very good card. It will be very useful with the quest line, which we'll be talking about next.
Yep. So as Zuroshio said, Mage legendary spell, Sorcerer's Gambit. It's 1 mana, and it is a quest line. So, as we talked about last week, quest lines are a spell sort of like the quests that we've had in the past, only when you complete it, you'll get a reward and the next part of the quest line. So let's just go through this real quick. So Sorcerer's Gambit, 1 mana, quest line, cast a Fire, Frost, and Arcane spell. So when you do that, you will be rewarded to draw a spell from your deck, and you'll get the next part of the quest line, which is called Stall for Time. And this one is cast a Fire, Frost, and Arcane spell, at which point you'll get the reward Discover one. I'm assuming that's discover a Fire, Frost, or Arcane spell.
I think that's what it means, but it also could be discover one of those 3 you cast. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. Yeah. It's going to be one of those things we'll have to test out.
And then when you complete that, you'll get the next and final part of the quest line, which is cast a Fire, Frost, and Arcane spell. And the reward for this is Arcanist Dawn Grasp. So Arcanist Dawn Grasp is a 5-mana, 7/7 minion. Battle cry for the rest of the game. You have spell damage +3.
So I like this mechanic of the quest lines. One thing to note is these will always start in your hand on turn 1. So you can mulligan them, but they will start in your hand. And each of the second and third tier of the quest lines will automatically turn into that. It won't. It's not something you have to play again.
You don't have to recast it. Yeah.
So it's a 1 mana investment to do this entire quest line. So that's really good for the mana. The problem I have is we don't have a lot of really good frost spells or any real damage frost spells. The arcane spells tend to be a little utility, and then your fire spells are your damage. So they're really going to have to give us a lot of really good spells. Plus, by the time you invest 9 spells into this, I hope you're generating spells, because the spell damage +3 for the rest of the game, it's useless if you don't have any spell damage.
So do you think
spells?
Do you think we could see a no minion mage make a comeback, to where you play this and then you just play spells until you get Dawn Grasp, play Dawn Grasp, and then just go nuts with the rest of your deck?
I think this deck has to be in a no minion mage, but you don't want a deck of lunacy, because then you're going to throw off your entire deck. Also, you're going to want generating kind of cards. Like, I think Mana Biscuit is an arcane spell, and it creates another arcane spell.
Yes.
So that's a good card to put in there. So I think, yes, Spell Mage or no minion mage is going to be what this goes in, but I don't think it's the no minion mage we're currently playing.
Okay.
I think we're going to really have to put a lot of control utilities in it, and hopefully with some new frost spells that help us control better, and a lot of generation that will generate us. I'm really hoping they actually give us cards that generate specifically Fire, Frost, and Arcane spells that are in the Fire, Frost, and Arcane category.
Right.
So that we can fuel this, because if by the time we get Varden out, we don't have the cards to do damage, we've had to use our damage spells to get to that point, then it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see what else comes out. With our current spell pool, this card just isn't worth it.
All right, moving on to Paladin. We have a new Paladin weapon called the Prismatic Jewel Kit. So again, this is part of that. What's it called?
Profession
tools. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So Prismatic Jewel Kit is a rare 1-mana 0/3 weapon. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, give minions in your hand +1/+1, lose 1 durability. So this is hand buff that is triggered off of your minions losing Divine Shield. What do you think?
So my first thought when I first thought of this was, you're going to want to play minions to lose Divine Shield, then you're not going to have minions in your hand to buff. And then I remembered Dude Paladin and Lothraxian. Now, Lothraxian is a
Yes.
5 mana minion, so we're talking about late game here. But you're generating minions that could have Divine Shield that then get popped. So I'm thinking if they give us more tools for Silverhand Recruits synergy, and we utilize this, and none of those synergies require any kind of uh, other weapons to go alongside of them, or not any crucial other weapons,
Uh-huh.
then maybe Prismatic Jewel Kit can be used in that, where we're generating minions, and then when our opponents have to deal with those, Silverhand Recruits that are buffed and Divine Shield, then they have to deal with a second wave of minions that are coming from our hand that are buffed up quite a bit. So we'll just have to see. I don't currently think this is a good card.
Okay.
But if Dude Paladin becomes a thing, it could go in there.
Okay. Whoop. Wrong button.
Whoops.
Moving on, we are now in Priest, and we have a rare spell called the Elic Mount. So this is similar to that Hunter Mount we saw earlier. This is a 7 mana, give a minion +4/+7, and taunt. When it dies, summon a 4/7 Elic with taunt.
Yeah, so Spike Ridge Steed has been hitting the buffet. So Spike Ridge Steed was a 6 mana 2/6 buff, and he gave a minion taunt, and then it summoned a 2/6 taunt. And this is for 1 mana more, you get 4/7 buff with taunt, and it summons a 4/7 when it dies.
Yes, that's plus 3 more stats.
Yeah. So now, mind you, in Paladin, especially at the time, there were a lot of spell synergies and stuff that you don't necessarily get with Priest. But at the same time, we have things like Palm Reading, which reduce the cost of spells in your hand. And we have the Nazmani Blood Weaver that also reduce the cost of cards in your hand. So this 7 mana 4/7 taunt looks expensive, but it may not actually be that expensive when used in practice. So this might be 5 mana or 6 mana, and at 6 mana, and Spike Ridge Steed was putting decks left and right. At 6 mana, this would be amazing. Yeah. So I really, one reduction. Yeah, this is an amazing card.
Okay, moving on to the Priest Legendary. Dark Bishop Benedictus.
Yes.
He's a 5 mana, 5/6 minion. Start of the game, if the spells in your deck are all shadow spells, enter shadow form. So, finally, we have the possibility of a legit Shadow Priest archetype, where if all the spells in your deck are shadow and you have Dark Bishop Benedictus, you just start the game as a Shadow Priest. This is exciting.
It is exciting, and I've kind of gone back and forth and then back and forth on this card, thinking it's bad, then it's good, then it's bad, then it's good again, because you lose a lot of spells when you have to restrict down to shadow. Yeah. You're not getting a lot of your healing and things like that. However, you do still have quite a bit of generation.
Yeah.
So maybe you can generate those holy spells that you need. I'm not really sure, but right now we have cards like Shadow Form and Shadow or Death is still in there. I think Soul Mirror is also Soul Mirror is also a spell school for Shadow. I'm looking it up right now. We have Thrive in Shadows, Devouring Plague, which is healing. Mm-hmm. It's also Shadow. Hysteria is Shadow. Insight is Shadow. Palm Reading is Shadow, which discovers you a spell, which could be a holy spell. Now, this is at start of game, so you can get holy spells in your deck or in your hand later, and it's not going to affect this. and basically you get the upgraded Mage hero power, the 2 mana for 2 damage, and
Yeah.
it can target anywhere. So, I do think, and with Raised Dead being in the pool also of shadow cards, I do think they're. When I first saw this, I thought you're gonna want to build an aggressive shadow priest, and a lot of your shadow spells are more control based. And I thought, well, that kind of goes against what this hero power wants to do. And then I realized that this is a great control tool just to be able to kill minions easily, so you can develop minions on the board or develop anything on the board. And when I thought of that, being able to use your hero power to ping something down a little bit and then use initiate to deal, which is a 6 mana shadow spell, deal 4 damage to a minion. If that kills it, summon a new copy.
Yeah.
So you could use your hero power and then turn around and initiate a minion to summon your own copy. Now, I know that's 8 mana, but that's generating you a minion and also board control. So there's a lot of tools. I think Dark Bishop Benedictus is one of the first decks that I will build. Probably the second deck I build, first being a Warlock deck we'll talk about later. And I'm really excited for this card. I think this is what we've asked for, and hopefully it gets more tools to be what we want.
Yeah, I'm excited for it as well. We'll see how that goes. But yes, I will definitely be building this deck as well, just to play test it and see how it goes. Next up, we have Warlock, and we are starting with their Profession tool. It is a rare runed mithril rod, 3 mana, 0/2 weapon. After you draw 4 cards, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1, lose 1 durability.
Yeah, so essentially you can use this twice.
Yeah.
It's very good. And in Wild, I'm not sure exactly how Plot Twist will work with this. If you have 8 cards in your hand, if all 8 will get 2 card reduction, or if the first 4 will get 1 and then the second 4 will get 1, of course, reducing the
first 4 by 2
as well.
Yeah.
So my question is will mana reduction in cards be what Warlock wants? And I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I think Warlock is going to go more to a self-damaging kind of way with with that Soul Stealer card that was banned in Wild being utilized, which means we're going to be spending health instead of mana on stuff. So I don't know if Rune Mithril Rod goes there. However, in a Zoo type archetype, I know 3 mana seems like a lot, but when you're reducing a lot of these cards you're drawing, which are low cost anyways, to almost nothing or 1 mana, then that 3 mana gets caught up really fast. So I'm really excited to see how Man at Arms breaks this card, because I'm sure there will be a way that's broken, and I'm sure he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a combo. So far with these cards I've seen, we're seeing some combo and control style generation and archetype decks that I love that style of play. So I think if that is the way they're going, this card will be useful.
There you go, Man at Arms. You have your homework. Break Rune Mithril Rod.
After you break the card we're showing next,
the Demon Seed. This is a Warlock legendary spell. It is a Warlock quest line. So 1 mana quest line. Take 6 damage on your turns. Reward lifesteal. Deal 3 damage to the enemy hero. Then the next quest line is take 6 damage on your turn. Reward. No, wait.
No, I got the wrong image. It's take 7.
Take 7 damage.
Yeah.
And then lifesteal, deal 3 damage to the enemy hero. And
that is correct, though.
Yeah. And then the last part of the quest line is called Complete the Ritual. It is take 8 damage on your turn, rewards Blotborn Tamsin. So Blotborn Tamsin is a 5 mana 7/7, just like the Mage reward. This one has Battle Cry for the rest of the game. Damage you take on your turn damages your opponent instead.
Yes, and the important keyword there is instead,
Yes.
meaning you don't take that damage. So there's a lot of really good Warlock archetypes that kind of been fringe in this whole not really self-damaging so far, but they do self-damage. But this delete lock that Mad at Arms is really proud of making decks about and really excited to use. So the big thing is this deck is going to be, in my opinion, a fatigue style deck. That fatigues out your opponent, which in past history have been very boring to play against and boring to play. But when you start taking fatigue on your turn, instead of you taking the damage, your opponent's going to take the damage.
Yeah.
So there is a card. Let me look it up real quick. Backfire. It's 3 mana. Draw 3 cards. Deal 3 damage to your hero.
Yes.
If you do this in fatigue, your opponent takes the 3 damage from the spell. Then
And
they take any fatigue damage. So
yeah.
if you do it right at the beginning, that's 1, 2, and 3, total of 6. With this card is 9.
Yeah.
So that's 9 damage off of this. And then if you played it again, that's another 3, and then
4, 5, and
4,
6.
5, 6.
No. No, that's not right, because they would take 4 on your draw step, so it would be 5, 6, and 7.
Well, if you play, what I'm saying is if you played all this right as soon as you
if you played it all the same turn, yes.
And you can speed up that by playing Altar of Fire, which destroys the top 3 cards of each deck.
Oh.
So if you do finish Tamsin early enough, but you're not quite the fatigue, just destroy your deck because you don't care.
This is just.
And then you have Hellfire.
Yeah.
Hellfire damages your opponent and damages you, but instead damages your opponent. So that's 6 damage off of Hellfire. Then you have Jaraxxus, okay? How does Jaraxxus play this? Well, he has a 3 attack weapon. You just punch into their big minion, and they take that damage too.
That's crazy. This is, if you can get this off, this could be a lot of fun.
The problems we have with this deck is there is a total of 15 net damage loss. So to complete this and get to Tamsin, it's a total of 21 damage, but you get a total of 6 damage in lifesteal. So that's a net. That's ends up being a total deficit of 15 health.
Yeah,
instead.
So half your life goes to completing this quest line.
If your opponent can do 15 damage to you by then this ain't gonna work.
Right.
However, there are some neutral healing which we'll talk about so far, and there's already some healing in
Warlock
that we can use and utilize. So I'm sure there's going to be a way to make this. This is the first deck I want to try.
Okay.
Followed by the Shadow Priest.
Yeah.
But when we get to the neutral card that adds to this, I'll mention it.
All right. Next up, we are looking at Warrior, and we have a common spell called Heavy Plate. It is 3 mana, tradable, gain 8 armor. So 3 mana for 8 armor, and if you don't want it right now, you can shuffle it back into your deck and draw another card. That seems pretty decent to me, Zuroshio. How about you?
It's decent. I think the only deck that's going to utilize this is going to be the Control OTK with Silas and the Soulbound, where you want to generate that armor so that you can have enough armor to OTK your opponent. So if you draw this early, you can shuffle it to get more tools for sustain. And then when you get your combo pieces, 3 mana just adds a little more armor that you need to get you over that hump. I think it's a fringe card. A lot of people compared this to Shield Block, but Shield Block was 3 mana for 5 armor, which is less, but it also drew you a card for the investment of the spell cost. Where this is you have to spend a mana to shuffle it and draw a card, and then later you still have to spend the 3 mana to get the armor. So in a sense, it's 4 mana to draw a card and get 8 armor. Right. And is that 1 extra mana worth the 3 armor? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to neutrals. First up, we have a common minion, the Spice Bread Baker. 4 mana, 3/2. Battle Cry. Restore health to your hero equal to your hand size.
Yeah, so this is Anti-Keelbot. This is one of the cards I think enables that Warlock. Okay. To be able to take all that damage early and then throw down a Spice Bread, because usually when you're taking that damage as Warlock, you're using your hero power, which is drawing you a card, or you're playing things like Backfire, which are drawing you cards.
You're going to have a large hand size, yeah.
Yes. And there's also, I think, soul fragments can be involved in there some way. So you're going to have a big hand size and need a substantial amount of healing. And Spice Bread Baker may only be 9 healing sometimes. That's the max it can be, is 9 healing, because you'd have a full hand of 10 cards. You play this, you're now at 9, so you get 9. So a lot of times it won't be as big as Anti-Keelbot. Anti-Keelbot was 8 healing, but it's a mana cheaper. And it's a neutral card, just like Anti-Keelbot. And Anti-Keelbot enabled a lot of control archetypes for Warlock that are still used in Wild today. So I think this card alone enables the ability to make that self-damaging Warlock successful. If they do any more neutral healing aside from this, that might be a top-tier deck.
Okay. Next up, we have Impatient Shopkeep. It's a common minion. 3 mana, 3/3, tradable rush. So it's a 3 mana, 3/3 rush. And if you don't want it right now, you can swap it for something else.
Yeah, I think this is one you'll take off Athletic Studies, but I don't know you put it in a deck.
Right. That makes sense. And then we have a common beast minion, the Rus Rot Viper. It's a 3 mana, 3/4 with tradable and battle cry, destroy your opponent's weapon.
So they've typically printed destroy weapon tech when the set has a lot of weapon synergies. When we had the legendary weapons, we got news, and now we're getting these profession tools. So I think that's the reason Rus Rot Viper is in here. And the fact that it has tradable, you're less punished for putting it in your deck.
Right.
So if you're playing against somebody who either hasn't drawn their weapon and you don't need that ooze or whatever weapon removal that turn, you can shuffle this in your deck to get another tool. Or you can hang on to it, wait for that weapon. Also, this is a card, this kind of tool, because it has tradable, it doesn't punish you for keeping it in your mulligan.
Right.
So you keep this in your mulligan, you get up to turn 3. If they haven't played a weapon, or you don't think they're going to play a weapon, or that class has the potential of being a weapon archetype, but then you find out by turn 3 that they're playing a different version of that class that doesn't have weapons, then you just trade it.
And it's important to note that with these new profession tools, they're giving weapons to some classes that traditionally have never had weapons, like Warlock.
Yes.
So now, just because you're up against a Mage, or you're up against a Warlock, or a Priest, might not necessarily mean they don't have weapons in the deck. So,
yeah, exactly.
Something to think about. You know,
Yeah,
it may move from what was traditionally known as a tech card to, now everybody's running a weapon of some form or other in their deck. So
yeah, and I think Rus Rot is going to be one of those tech cards you put in almost every deck.
yeah. All right, so Pandaren Importer, another common minion, 2 mana, 1/3, battle cry, discover a spell that didn't start in your deck. Discover a spell that did not start in your deck.
I'm hearing a lot of people who are like, but if I'm discovering a spell that didn't start in my deck, why would I want that spell? I would just put it in my deck. And then I think of Dark Bishop Benedictus. So now you can play an all shadow spell list and still be able to discover holy spells or non-aligned spells that aren't shadow that you might need.
Okay.
Like that healing, or like like Apothecary. Maybe you want to try to discover Apothecary off this, but you can't put Apothecary in your deck because you're restricted to shadow spells.
Yeah.
That's true. For the same reason, maybe you put it in the Mage deck, not so much to discover a specific spell, but just to get another Frost, Fire, or Arcane spell that maybe you didn't put in your deck.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I understand why a lot of people will say, well, if I, instead of putting 2 of these, just put a spell I want in my deck in the deck. But again, this is a niche card. I don't think it goes in every deck. If your deck is restricting what kind of spells you put in the deck, then you play this to get other spells.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next up, we have another common minion, the Peasant. 1 mana, 2/1. At the start of your turn, draw a card. So, play this on 1. If it survives, turn 2, draw a card, then draw a card.
Play this on 1, and if your opponent isn't Druid, or Mage, or Demon Hunter, or just about anything that can clear a 1 health minion on 1, my initial thoughts are this is bad.
Yeah.
My other thoughts on it, as I stewed on it a bit, was hand buff is becoming more of a thing. I don't know if you want to put this in Rush Warrior because it doesn't have Rush.
Right.
So I don't know if you want to condition this. Paladin is doing buffs, but then again, if you buff this a couple times, it's more survivable. You're not playing it on 1. So I'm not sure this is good. I think it's bad. I think if it was a 1/2, it'd be so much better.
Okay.
I think it would be better if it was a 0/2, to be honest.
Yeah. So, moving on, we have a neutral rare minion, the Mailbox Dancer. It's a 2 mana, 3/2, battle cry, add a coin to your hand, death rattle, give your opponent 1. So, anybody that has played World of Warcraft knows that there's a lot of downtime spent in the cities between quests, and what is one of World of Warcraft's favorite pastimes? Mailbox dancing. Goes all the way back to vanilla. This is not something new. This has been around, and glad to see it finally make its appearance in Hearthstone.
Well, there's a problem with this art. He's wearing clothes.
Well, there's that.
In World of Warcraft, the typical thing to do is strip all of your armor off, so you're just in your skivvies and your normal shirt that comes with it, and dancing. One interesting thing about this is in a blog, I can't remember where it was, they did say that this card originally was a dwarf in the art. Okay. And they changed it to a human, probably for scaling. This card is interesting. I know a lot of people say, why would I want to give my opponent anything? But this card might enable some kind of weird combo in Rogue, where you play this, then you bounce it, then you play it again, then you bounce it, then you play it again, and maybe you Tenwu it to play it again. So you're getting tons of coins in your hand, and then you do some kind of weird shenanigans where you play the Soulbound and Silas to give the Soulbound to your opponent, and then you play a bunch of your spells and lots of stuff, and then you use that 2/1 minion to do damage to the minion so your opponent takes it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems pretty far-fetched, but the important thing to note is that combo probably doesn't work in practice, but this does enable the ability for combos.
Yes.
With this card, it can get you past 10 mana in a turn. And sure, you give your opponent a coin, but they're not utilizing that coin the same way you're utilizing the coin.
Correct.
And it's parity. So if you're talking about just mana advantage, they're not getting any more mana advantage than you, because first off, you get to use the coin first.
Mm-hmm.
And second off, if they do use a coin, you can use a coin the next turn to offset the advantage they had. So I think it's a good card. I do think it's a fringe card. It goes in specific decks that want to utilize more than 10 mana in a turn. But I think it's a good card to have.
Okay. And then the last card we have to talk about this week is the card everybody got for free just for logging in, Flightmaster Dungar. So he's a legendary neutral minion, 3 mana, 3/3, battle cry, choose a flight path, and go dormant. Awaken with a bonus when you complete it. So,
yeah, I
Zuroshio,
apologize. I
tell
forgot
us
to
about
put in
flight paths.
I forgot to put in the flight path. So the way this works is you get a Discover of 3. One is Westfall. In one turn, summon a 2/2 Adventurer with a random bonus effect. We saw those in Forge and the Barrens. And then the second one is Ironforge. In 3 turns, restore 10 health to your hero. And then the last one is Eastern Plaguelands. In 5 turns, deal 12 damage split among all enemies. So what that does is whichever one you choose decides when Dungar awakens.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do Westfall, he'll awaken the next turn. If you do Ironforge, it'll take 3 turns. If you take Eastern Plaguelands, it takes 5 turns. I've played this quite a bit because we all got it free. And so you can play it in the meta right now. So log into Hearthstone and you get this card. And I've used Eastern Plaguelands a lot of times, but it's really, really hard to get those 5 turns. And your opponent can load the board to soak up that damage or play death rattles into it and things like that. What I'm finding myself using it for is I'm putting it in slower control style decks or combo decks. I'm using it in my combo OTK right now. And I'm playing, if I'm playing against an aggressive strategy, I can get this out early knowing my opponent's going to try to push face. And when they do push face, like against a hunter, then in 3 turns, I get 10 heal, which kind of offsets a lot of that damage they did over those 3 turns.
Okay.
So I'm utilizing Dungar mainly for Ironforge, which is the healing, and it's working really well for me. Also, if you are playing against a slower deck, you can play this on turn 3, and then on turn 4, you get 5/5 worth of stats, and the 2/2 is going to have some kind of, it might have Divine Shield, it might be poisonous, it might have stealth. So you're getting really good value for that 3 mana, whichever choice you pick. The Eastern Plaguelands, if you can get it to pull off, can be devastating. It's a lot of damage. 12 damage,
Right.
15 total if you count the 3 attack on Dungar. That's a lot of damage invested into 3 mana.
Yeah. And if you can clear their board, that's 12 to face. So.
Yeah.
All right. That pretty much does it for us this week. Like we said, if there are card reveals that have not been announced that happen next week, we will try to do a show for you guys next week to talk about those cards. If there are not,
if there's any big news aside from the patch.
Right. If there's not, we may take next week off and then be ready to come in full bore with the card reveals the following weekend.
And if you want to know ahead of time, make sure to follow us on Twitter over at HeroPower_cast. We will make a tweet about the delay if that happens.
That is correct. So, all right. That, like I said, that's going to do it for us this week. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please email us at heropowerpodcast@gmail.com. Hit that subscribe button below on YouTube if you haven't done so already. And if you are interested in checking out our patron-only Discord, head on over to patreon.com/heropower, and you can join there for as little as $1 a month. And until next week, good gaming.
Don't forget to use your hero power. And don't forget to use your hero power.
Yeah, that too.
That too. Oh, hey, don't forget to use your hero power.
Oh, man, I almost forgot to use my hero power.